It's getting late, isn't it? It's time for all good citizens to be getting ready to go to bed. You don't want to be out after dark, do you? Would you like me to read you a bedtime story? Of course you would. Well, curl up in front of the telly and Uncle Jack will tell you a story. Tonight's story is called Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, there were three bears who lived in a house in the woods. They were called Henry Bear, Jane Bear, and Jane's father, Old Edward Bear. They had barely enough food to feed themselves, but it was enough. Every morning, Henry Bear had a big bowl of porridge because he was big, and Jane had a medium-sized bowl because she was medium-sized, and Old Edward Bear had a small bowl, for though he was wise, he was tiny and needed to preserve his strength, and he didn't need to eat that much either. And Henry had a big chair, and Jane had a medium-sized chair, and Old Edward had a small chair that was padded and very comfortable. And each of them had a bed to sleep in, a small bed for Old Edward Bear, and a medium-sized bed for Jane Bear, and a big bed for Henry Bear. Every morning, Jane Bear made porridge for the three of them, just enough so they would have energy throughout the day, and she gave them each their joy, 1 pill for Old Edward Bear, 2 for herself, and 3 for Big Henry Bear. They took their joy right away, of course, because they knew it's always best to start the day with joy. And then they would go out for a walk in the woods to find berries to put in their porridge while it cooled, because they knew that berries are very healthy in porridge. But one morning, while they were out, a young woman came by their house. Her name was Goldilocks, for she had golden hair, of which she was very proud. And she was always getting into mischief and causing her neighbours trouble, because she thought she was entitled to everything because of her pretty golden hair. Well, the three bears were sensible bears, and they'd locked up their house. It's always best to leave your house locked, because you can never be too careful. But when Goldilocks came by the bears' house one morning and noticed that the bears were not there, she said to herself, "What a nice house! I wonder what is in it." So she checked all the windows, and sure enough, one of the window latches was loose. Goldilocks said to herself, "Oh, stupid bears! They have not protected themselves so well." So she pried the window open and went into the bear's house, even though she did not belong there. And she found herself in front of the dining table. Now, Goldilocks was not particularly hungry, and she was used to much better food than porridge, but she believed that anything she could take belonged to her. So she decided to taste the porridge. First, she decided to sit in the large chair and try the large bowl. "Oh, this porridge is much too hot," she said to herself. Then she decided to sit in the small chair and try the small bowl. "Oh, this porridge is much too cold," she said to herself. So she decided to sit in the medium-sized chair and taste from the medium-sized bowl. "Oh, yum, it's perfect," she said to herself, and she ate up all the porridge in the bowl. Well, eating all that porridge made Goldilocks very sleepy. "I wonder what sort of beds these bears have," she said to herself. So she looked for the bedroom, and as the bears had a very small house, she found it right away. And she saw that there were 3 beds. At first, she tried the smallest bed, which was Old Edward Bear's bed, but this bed was much too small for her, and no matter how much she thrashed around, her feet hung out. So she tried the big bed, which was Henry Bear's, but the big bed was very high, and no matter where she rolled around in the bed, Goldilocks was afraid that she'd fall out while she was asleep. So she tried the medium-sized bed, which was Jane Bear's bed, and she said to herself, "This is just right. I shall make this one my bed." And in no time at all, she was fast asleep. And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again tomorrow evening, and I'll tell you the rest of the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears. It's a lovely story, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the rest of it. For now, this is Jack Worthing saying good night all, and see you tomorrow.